Welcome to the U8 blog part 2. Here's when we start it up and fire it up, see how it all runs. Right, so I've got myself, obviously the U8 is here, and the connectors I've got a USB, an old USB, this blue lead here. This should be running on 1.1. I've got the correct little two-prong power supply. My Roland Edirol U8 runs at 240 volts. Obviously, depending on which country you purchase in, you've got to make sure you get the voltage correct. This is the lead from my screen here. That's my particular computer screen there. I'm using that one up there. It's actually a HP 1730. My computer I'm running through the U8 is an LP mini desktop made by Gateway of Ireland a long time ago, and as you can see there, it's got two USB ports. It's got your PS2 ports for a mouse. That's an old mouse, Windows 98 SE, and an old keyboard as well, compatible with Windows 98 SE with USB 1.1 ports. And it's also got the connectors for the monitor, and these come with serial and parallel ports. Worth mentioning, I'm running monitor speakers left and right, and that's through that connector there. If you just wanted to run software through Windows 98, don't forget that people like Cakewalk make guitar software that's only compatible just with Windows 98, I believe. And in that case, you would use this microphone port of your Windows 98, and you can run a guitar and microphone through. Well, obviously you can put it through a mixer as a mix through that port of your computer, and that way you can actually run the software. And presumably you could also use an external USB mixer to run into that software. But don't quote me on that, because Windows 98 was one of the programs which various guitar software from Cakewalk would run on. But check compatibility. Right, so we've got our U8 here, our MIDI keyboard. The MIDI keyboard here I'm using is an old one. This one only has MIDI out on it, and it runs on an external power supply, so you've got to make sure that you've got your correct power supply for that. For microphone stuff, I would say I'm using a very old microphone here. That's an old Shure microphone. Okay, if you're wanting to run it through the XLR on your U8, that's looking at the side ports of the U8 here. You've got an XLR port there. Then you need to have a converter. Those two lines there are aux out. The outer one's aux output, the inner one's aux input. Then you've got aux in, microphone in, instrument left, instrument right, guitar high Z, headphones, monitor. Your input sensitivity here, one there and one there, and two buttons here, mixer and effects. Four little buttons here for tweaking your effects. I did say in my other blog there are drivers for Windows XP, but you won't get the digital signal processing effect from this external hardware. But you will get, it sounds to me like you've got panning. You can certainly pan two signals, say guitar and vocals, or keyboard and vocals, or guitar and keyboard if you're running, say, two instruments in, two people playing them. So you can pan them. And also it seems to me as if obviously the faders on these, for if you're using it just as an external mixer using the WinXP drivers, some of these faders do seem to have an effect on these effects mixers. And I did try it on WinXP, running through using their drivers on USB. I found out that part of the Cubasis VST software installed on WinXP, but you certainly couldn't use any of the DSP effects, but it would record onto it. It takes up quite a lot of memory, about 250 megabytes. But you could use some of the VST effects after you'd recorded it worked. So some effects can be added afterwards, so you'd have to add your own effects before you went in, but it does give a basic reverb just for a quick live recording, say of guitar and vocals, or keyboard and vocals, or vocals and vocals. Or say you're running in a keyboard into the aux in, it would work. I'm not sure whether anything MIDI works on Windows XP, because it was designed for Windows 98 software to go in through a USB lead. And as I said earlier, I'll be using one of these USB ports here to connect it up. Right, let's see how it all plugs in, and let's have a look at the software. Okay, so welcome back. We're now about to switch on our Roland U8, or should we say Roland Edirol U8, and I've linked up an old Evolution MIDI keyboard using a MIDI cable from them. It just has a MIDI out. This then goes into the MIDI in there of the U8, and the U8 I've got the power connector at the back, the USB link there. I haven't plugged it in yet to the PC, and basically I'm going to turn on the gateway. It's called a Gateway LP Mini Desktop, and it's running Windows 98 SE, but the magic thing is it's got two USB ports, USB 1.1. I must stress you should not use USB 2 devices in this computer, and it's not plug and play. Basically, once you connect an item, it has to recognise it, and you often have to search for the software, sometimes continuously. So it's a labour of love running one of these old computers, but if you like this sort of thing, then it can be worth it if you can get hold of the old retro equipment. An old Shure microphone. Okay, I can give you the details of that if you're interested. This one here is obviously not a one with phantom power, so it's a basic microphone which comes with a 1/4-inch jack at the end, and I've put an adapter onto it. As you can see, this is an XLR output here, and you can buy adapters. That's an adapter there at the end there to make it XLR. That's because on the side of, as I've shown you, on the side of these there is an XLR input. The Edirol, which is a Roland Edirol, is there. Obviously connected to it is this Evolution Mark 125 keyboard. It has pin positive at 12 volts on my power supply, so that's 12 volts, and you must put the switch back to this side for the pin to be positive. Okay, so I've got the manual as well. I used the manual when I installed my software, which came on one disc, and the software had on it drivers, Windows 98 drivers for the Roland U8. It also had the U8 controller software. It also had Cubasis VST, which is the program produced by Steinberg, which is tailor-made. It's actually bespoke software just for this particular hardware and controller. And remember, it is USB and MIDI. From what I gather, if you have the Windows XP drivers, they're just ASIO drivers, which makes me believe, I don't believe it gives MIDI capability directly through the U8. However, you can buy very cheaply USB MIDI connectors, which come with two cables which connect to your device. That's two MIDIs, a MIDI out, MIDI in, and a USB that goes into your PC. Not sure whether they'd work on old computers like Windows 98, but of course some people did have MIDI ports on their PCs, and devices such as this Evolution keyboard were originally designed so that they had you had a MIDI cable that went into these other ports of your, like serial ports or parallel ports, serial ports I believe, of your computing, and you'd have to have a suitable port, the same sort of port you'd use on an old joystick. I've got one down here, that's an old joystick there, which again, joysticks themselves like that operate in a similar way. Those joysticks can also be very useful for running programs where you can use them in the same way as you'd use a MIDI command. So a joystick itself can be very useful for operating software, even on digital audio workfaces. You can use a joystick such as this, as long as you've got the right, game stick port, joystick port, should we say.
you can use those to operate music software, and you can obviously, some software like Ableton etc. does have ways in which you can set up how you can do it. And there is a program called MIDI yoke which some people use, and you can contact me if you have set up a MIDI yoke for the U8. And this, because apparently some people say that these sliders, of course, they will work in other software where you can set up MIDI commands, but apparently the jog wheel and some other functions on this, and obviously this easy recording, which contains the DSP effects and the way you can sort of tweak the DSP effects. The rest of this runs on something called sysx commands. But the U8 controller software, it's a very small program. Such a shame that we can't get hold of those digital effects on the inside the actual U8. You know, across a whole host of software. It would be really nice if Roland could just work on that little program and make an awful lot of people happy the world over. If you've got lots of plugs because you're running old setups like I do, old retro setups that you get hold of in car boots or, you know, garage sales, you know, auction sites, good to put a little sticker on. This one says HP screen. That's my old screen there, and that's the plug for that one. And this one here would be the plug for my gateway, the old Windows 98, which says W98 gateway. Okay, and basically these old PCs run on old kettle lead. I'm running this PC, as you can see, with the back end of the PC facing me, so the switch is on the other side of the PC. Be aware that these old Windows 98 PCs do not like being moved around. They're not robust for movement. They weren't really meant to, so I keep mine on the ground. Like I said to you, one or two capacitors of mine to do with other circuitry seem to have snapped off, but I think they might have been related to the actual communication side of the PC, which I don't use at all, that part of the circuit. It still works anyway, but it's worth making sure that they are safe, and having these old items electrically tested if you can, pat tested, as regards safety, and also try to run things through, you know, with surge protection on and things like that, you know, particularly with old electronics. Also, I also myself, when I've unplugged the computer, make sure that it is clean inside, but don't forget that there's a risk of things like capacitors storing charge, and you'll need to ground yourself as well. So you need to look into this about making sure that you know, the item itself is earthed, etc., properly, and you know, electrical safety is important. Right, so I'm about to connect up the HP screen now. You can see there's the connector there, and it will go into this blue connector here. Goes in, oh, wrong way around, goes in that way. Okay, there you go. It should be home, and they've got these little screws on the side of them, as you know. Right, so we get connected up. This is the gateway, so that's the old Windows 98 PC there. And then we'll need our HP screen connected up on this multi-socket. Probably best to have surge protection on your connectors, make sure they're properly in. Okay, and then I've got to just turn it on, and then we'll watch the boot up. Here we go. Blink and you'll miss it. That says gateway. Gives you an option to change F1 key. And it's just in its boot up sequence there on the old gateway there. Okay, you can press F1 key to change system settings, system messages, press the tab key, so it says. And I'm running the old running through an old keyboard, you know, PS2, and an old PS2 mouse. There we are, Microsoft Windows 98. You won't hear the sound from it starting up just yet, because I've not turned my speakers on. Okay, but obviously had I turned these speakers on down there, you would have heard the classic Windows 98 startup, which I'll try and record for you, of course, because this is a trip down memory lane for many people. Okay, and then Windows 98 itself is starting up. It takes its time and does things in its own time. Okay, and then you get there we are. Get your messages. I've chosen my actual background, you know, my screen settings as well, which you can obviously alter yourself. I like this sort of purple background screen here, and you can choose how you want your desktop icons. Right, and I've set up Winamp. There's Cubasis VST. I've got a WinZip on there, an ASIO driver. I put a couple of VST effects which I found myself. One or two other programs I found, drag and drop drummer from other programs. There's something called iAware there. And I looked into storing things on iOmega zip drives, and you know, I've had a bit of luck with them. That's another way of getting material off this computer. You could use USB 1.1 if you've got a USB into a zip drive. So that's another thing I didn't mention before. One or two other bits of software programs found that does music recordings, old versions of Fruity Loops. Making waves, that's other software I had on Windows 98. Wavelab Lite, that comes with Cubasis VST, and there are versions of Audacity that work with Windows 98. I've recommended all of those to you so far. So basically, let's see how we go on starting up our U8. So what I need to do is plug it in now. Right, so now we're ready to plug the U8 in. So I'll plug that in. Once it's plugged in and turned on, some of these lights will come on, and then I'll connect the USB in. Okay, the power switch for these is a little switch right round the corner there. It's a little black switch by my finger there, which is round the back. There's the back end of the U8. We turn it on. You can see a host of lights come on. Okay, and that's my U8 powered up. While it's on, make sure that your headphone levels are nice down low. All these tracks are down low, mastering down low. Put your inputs down as well, keep everything low. Okay, I've got a microphone plugged in at the moment, which is a basic it's not phantom powered, of course. It's just a basic studio microphone. Okay, right, now we're going to connect the USB up. Okay, so at the back of it you'll see there's a USB import. Okay, so I'm going to put this USB into there. Can only go in one way, that's my USB in. Okay, and then the other end of the USB cable winds all the way around here. It's my other end of my USB cable, and that goes into one of these USB ports at the back of the gateway, to make sure I've got it in right. There we go. I've just plugged in my USB there. Right, so I've already installed my software for this, for Cubasis. So what we're going to do now is see if the actual program starts up. So get my mouse here, which is there. It's a bit tangled up, I suppose, so untangle my mouse and let's get into the actual programming side of things. So right, we've got on my programs list there. Okay, let's have a look and see what we've got. We've got, it says Cakewalk there, and I've got Roland U8 Digital Studio. So programs, Roland U8 Digital Studio, U8 controller. We've also got here we go. It says Steinberg Cubasis VST. Above that says Roland U8 Digital Studio. That will be the controllers, the U8 controller software, and the virtual sound canvas. I've got 3, which that actually came with on the disc. And over there you have ASIO DirectX, ASIO Multimedia Setup, Cubasis, setting up various controls there like MIDI, etc. So we're going to go into Cubasis now. Okay. Right, Cubasis VST. The current ASIO configuration was never tested, so we'll check the configuration. You don't have to if it's already been tested before, but let's check it. And it will just check my setup. Right. So it tells you what you have to do if you have to use like an internal clock or applying digital signal, etc. Version 3.7 Cubasis VST U8, which is the special program. Okay, it seems to have behaved itself there. Right, at the top of this program here, you've got File, Edit, Parts, Functions, Options, Audio, and Windows. And all along here it says Audio 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and Tracks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, etc. Okay, so how does this work? Well, I've got a basic Encore guitar. I've just got whatever I can afford to use, second hand, and I plugged my guitar in to the high Z line in of the U8. I've got a microphone plugged in there, so you could do guitar and vocals. I've got this switch here on audio and MIDI. Okay, I haven't messed with any input settings at the moment, and I've just opened my program, Cubasis VST. Okay, I'm working quite below you here, so I'll do my best. Right, so if I go into audio and I look at my U8 mixer, right, this is the U8 mixer screen. This is where you set your actual inputs, and I need to have an instrument. I can have inputs being A and B, right, which would be microphone and guitar. Okay, and I can mess around there with EQ, with high EQ, low EQ. There's a send, insert send. That's inserting an effect. Okay, how much the effect you want sending into the actual recording. And there's a balancers. Balance, two little don't seem very well, but there's little circles below the send effects are for balance. You've got slider controls there, and basically this little screen here is about recording. The left and right locator numbers are, let's say you want to do a song 4 minutes long, well, you need to make sure you've got those times set, say to 0 for the left, and however many seconds, say 4 minutes is 240 seconds. Make sure you set your left and right locators, and they look like old transport recorders, tape transport recorders. They've got a stop, a play, and a record. There's a button there when you're ready for your mastering. Okay. And then basically you add your effect, so you've got to choose which effect: a system effect, an insert effect. At the moment you're worried about an insert effect, okay, which is this button here. So I'm going to choose my two inputs, that's guitar and microphone. I won't mess with the EQ at the moment, and I'll choose a couple of effects, and then I'll show you the effects window. Okay, so I'll try and hold this steady. Inputs A and B. We're going to insert effects, right? And we're going to do an insert effect. We'll look at the instrument and effect window. Okay, now let's have a look at the type of effects we've got. The patch manager here is there. At the moment tight compression is showing, and it looks like tight compression, bass, distortion. There's slap bass, fat bass, bass multiply. I must have been doing bass last time I used it. There's various drum effects. Once you've got your drums, compression, ballad, shaker, slow shaker, kick attack, snare compression, hi-hat flanger. Piano effects, hall, chorus, EP chorus, electric piano, I suppose electric piano 60s phaser. So various organ effects, brass section effects. There's a whole host of effects. 135 there's brass section. There's strings, woodwinds, mastering effects. RSS, that's that sort of like around spatial surrounding. Basic effects that you can add, all sorts like delays, hall reverbs, room reverbs, analog, echo, stereo chorus, low cut chorus, jet flanger, space phaser, stereo phaser, diminished PS, detune and octave. Okay, but I'm looking basically at electric guitar effects myself, so we'll just scroll back up through the menu, right? So we were on bass at the time. Synthesizer effects as well, multi-mod, super lead, stereo, SFX and Galaxy. Vocal effects, let's go through these briefly. On the screen you've got bright vocal, dry vocal, wet vocal flanger, doubling effects, rap, narration, karaoke, echo, vocal distortion, radio voice, telephone voice, hello Martians. Right, at the top obviously, because most of the people who use this are probably guitarists, You've got clean guitar effects, cutting, mild compression, clear chorus, neo surf effects, multi-phaser, studio clean, warm clean effects. Then you're going for soft effects, compression and overdrive, cool crunch, British rock and roll, retro octava, 70s fusion, saturation, rockabilly, Liverpool crunch, sounds interesting, AW crunch, whatever that is. Surely someone out there will know. Then you go on to hard guitar, stack overdrive, hard drive, metal riff, fat distortion, mild lead, Texas Legend, Cyclone, double fuzzy, panning MOD, metal scream. Then going further up, you've got these are system effects. System effects are ones that are applied to the whole mix. You've got final reverb, concert hall, warm plate, warm wood room, small hall, live house, studio ambience, rock and roll, stereo, long delay, and light phaser. So at the top it looks like system effects, and at the very bottom it looks like basic effects. So you can add basic effects or system effects. So let's try something which is like say 70s fusion. If I double click on 70s fusion, you'll see that behind that's changed to 70s fusion, right? So that's it. And if I want to advance the actual 70s fusion screen down here, this is where you can have deep editing. I've got a compressor, sustainer, distortion, noise suppressor, speaker simulator, auto wah, equalizer, chorus effects, delay effects. Okay, so I'll just show you them. Those 4 buttons on the screen relate to these 4 buttons on the actual hardware. Effects, mixer control 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, and then to make it easier, there's an easy recording button. I can press start there, I choose the instrument, and I can actually run through the actual menu from there when I'm ready to record. Okay, so I'm looking at 70s fusion. Let's see what else we've got on this. I can move this whole screen up. Yeah, there you go, that's the whole of the screen there, the equalizer, and you can see it's got things like low gain, mid gain, high gain level, mid frequency, manual peak, polarity level, speaker simulator, noise suppressor, distortion, compressor, sustainer, chorus. Oh, you can go on for hours enjoying yourself with all these different effects. Depends how much of a hurry you are to do something. And reverb. Okay, so that's a very basic 70s effect. And what's amazing about this is that this is a very retro piece of gear, and it took me a bit of rummaging around to find all the old bits to put together, and a lot of it is basically scrap things that people don't know quite sure whether they work fully or not. So you've got there is some risk getting the stuff together, but once you've got MIDI cables, suitable kettle lead for your computer, and you've established that it's safe, that it will work. It's been pat tested, and inside is not filthy and coated in dust. That's a big problem with these old circuits. Computer shops will run through computers for you. You could even ask a computer shop to look out for a Windows 98 SE computer for you with USB ports to the specs of the Roland. Don't give up on it even with XP. Not sure what drivers exist beyond XP, because it's a fantastic mixer in its own right, even without these effects. People do overplay effects. You can add your own effects yourself. There's plenty of guitar pedals out there made by all sorts of companies. Not too expensive. You can add your basic effects. Because in this, don't forget, in a U8 you can add your microphone in through an XLR, or even not. You can put it through a 1/4 inch, and your guitar. And the keyboards, of course, can go in through an instrument or any other instrument where you've got a lead out from it. And don't forget, there is an import, an aux import, which goes through left and right, and the output of the U8 itself can be put out. If you're running a MIDI keyboard, like I've got a MIDI keyboard, that of course goes from your MIDI out. I believe it is into the MIDI in. You have to check that yourself. Once I plug the keyboard in, my keyboard will operate the actual software on here and record in MIDI. So let's have a look. Let's have a listen to some of the guitar effects. Right, so we're back to the U8 mixer screen, which I've pulled down from the audio screen, and I'm looking at it, putting a microphone and a guitar through. And there you are, high EQ, low EQ, and all the other things such as balance, etc. And I'm putting on an effect window on my instrument. Okay, so I'm going to try the easy recorder. This is effects. Okay, so make sure your effects button is pressed on. Okay, and if you press this button here on your U8 hardware called start, easy recording. Okay, so I had to turn my U8 off and take the USB plug out again, turn it on again, and put the USB in again. It was playing around a bit. You often find this, you've got to sort of like be patient with it. So we're going to try something which is called easy recording now. Okay, so I go in my U8 and I press this button here, which is start. There. Okay. 4 green lights appear, so all I press is easy recording. The only light that was on the U8 when it was properly configured was this little audio and MIDI light. Okay, on my screen has appeared this wonderful message that says welcome to easy recording. I'm recording guitars and other instruments. Okay, so basically I can use the cursor, that's this cursor here, to select what I'm doing. Okay, so I can use the cursor or my controller. So let's see what happens if I move this cursor here. Okay, it moves down one. I'm going to move the cursor again, moves down another one. So basically this is sysx commands coming from the Roland 8, moving up and down. I'm recording guitars and other instruments. I've just moved that up again. Okay, so then I can go to next. Enter command should get my, let's see if that works to go to next. Okay, so next is, there's a next button there. Yeah, I pressed next on there and my other screen came up, so it's working. The actual sysx commands are working. It then says select the input jacks. I'm recording the guitar, it tells you to put it in the high Z. Other instruments, it tells you to put it into the 1/4 inch jack next to the high Z, that's another one, B. Stereo instruments, you can go into input A. Okay, so mono aural would be the same as guitar, but on a 1/4 inch, stereo instruments would be on input A. Right, so I'm now going to need to go to next. I don't have to use the mouse, could if you want to, so I'm going to go back to next, so that's next. It then says on the U8, turn the input level adjust knob input sensitivity to match the input level of the instrument. Adjust so the input peak indicators light up only slightly when you're playing at a high sound level. So now, right, I get my guitar plectrum and I can then adjust input. My guitar is on input B, so I'll be controlling it on this one. So at the moment I've got 0 input on that, so let's turn it up to say about there on B. I'm not entirely sure which one of these it will be because there's 4 green lights, so let's put the master, say, to about half level. I've got 4 green lights here, so let's try these at about half level because I don't know which one it'll be coming out on at the moment. Okay, to hear my guitar I'm going to have to put headphones on. You'll have to bear with me, headphones are there. You have to be patient with the Roland U8. You'll know it's working correctly on its ASIO driver because I always have the screen coming up telling me to test the configuration and setups. If you've got all the lights, light coming up along here on the top of these track status bars, then it's not set up correctly. The actual sysx and MIDI commands through the USB aren't working, but if one little red light, that's telling you everything's okay. Right, so I'm on to Cubasis there. Let's get back to easy recording. I'll go through it quickly now. So it's start, welcome to easy recording, yes, we'll click next on this. Okay, next, recording a guitar, let's click next on there. Yeah, so it's next there. Got a input level to match the input level of the instrument, etc. B, we've got that. Turn our sliders up, 2, 3, 4, master up. Okay, I've got my headphones here, left and right. I'll turn my headphones up. I don't know whether you can hear that. So I'm now getting a guitar signal from my Strat, okay, and it's peaking a little bit occasionally as I'm playing the guitar. Okay, so pluck a string there,
and the peak light's going on. Okay, so I'm ready for next. Right, so next I can press next button on this. Okay, and then you can apply an insertion effect. At the moment I've got 70s fusion. If I want to change 70s fusion, I can go up here and let's try say saturation, double click saturation, and then you've got to tick this box to apply the effect, which is at the top of the screen. Okay, and then put next. Okay, recording effects settings are finished. Adjust the recording level with the ACC 1 track volume fader. Okay, that's what it says. You can also go back one screen. You can finish on the next screen, or go back if you want to. Okay, so let's have a look and see what we've got then, shall we? There you go, I've got distortion there. Okay, so basically I've got a distortion effect there. Finish would be, oh yeah, you can go on to recording a microphone if you want. Next would be say microphone. You connect your microphone up on the easy recording. I'm recording one microphone or two microphones in stereo. So you can have A and B. That's if you've not got your guitar and you're just doing two microphones, or two microphones mixed A and B. Next, using your U8, it then says turn the input level to match the input level of the instrument. So we're on input A, right? So that's that one here. So if I turn A up to there, okay, so to about there. I've set these about mid-level, and I've set that about. Obviously, you can have to adjust it properly for yourself. Then my microphone should be connected up, and basically the idea is to adjust A till you're getting a signal on your microphone. But yeah, can you see that? All I was doing was gently tapping this Shure microphone here, and I had to do a bit of soldering on this connection here, but that's fine. Okay, so I've got basic level of the microphone. Okay, that means I can now play guitar and microphone and record them. Press next. I can put an insertion effect on my vocal, of course. So basically you scroll down, you can use your mouse, select a patch up or down. So I could use this actual cursor here. I'm moving the cursor on the hardware to go right down to the effect I want to select. Okay, so that's what this is using sysx command vocal. Right, so I'd probably want to do something like doubling on mine, because I've got quite a reedy voice. So doubling, apply the insertion effect. I don't know whether enter. I wonder whether enter would work. Let's have a look. I press enter. Doubling. Right. I can apply the insertion effect. I'll just use my mouse for now because I'm not quite sure. So I want to apply that effect to my vocals. Yeah. Okay. And I'll just use my mouse now to hurry it along. Go to next. The recording settings are finished. Adjust the recording level with your track volume fader. Okay, it seems to be pointing to the track volume fader here. So it seems to be pointing to this one here and this one here. Not quite sure which one's effective, but obviously that you'd have to work that out if you get a U8. I'll have to work it out myself when I look at the actual recording on this. And then you've got finish command there, okay, which is your command finish. So I can press my marker next. So all I did was press next again. I'm now back on recording. If I want to record a track 1, I've got to decide what type of track I want to record. Basically I've got track 1. You can have either a MIDI track or an audio track, and I'm doing an audio track. I can click on the side here, I want stereo. Okay, so track 1 VST, the output will be through output VST. You've got choice of outputs VST. Okay, and basically I set my marker on my left and my right. The left locator I would set it as 0 personally, and you've obviously got rewind buttons here. You can rewind it and press stop. Okay, so when you're ready, there's your vocals there, and there's your trusty electric guitar there. If you're sat down, it's always good to have a footrest for your guitar. Okay, you have to set the mix so that you've got your microphone on your head, as I've got my microphone, but obviously set up on your head properly. Start singing and playing. When you've set your left and right locators, these are in seconds, I would set that one to be 0. You know, using your keyboard here, just type in the number 0. Your right locator, make sure you allow enough recording time. Say for instance a 5-minute song, then that'll be 300 seconds, okay? And then away you go. And you can either use your mouse to press these, to get these going. The reds record, and you've got rewind buttons and fast forward buttons, or use these buttons here use the red one there to press record when you're ready, okay? And make sure you've got your levels here for each track set. Seems to be pointing to these two, but you'd have to find out yourself. I couldn't suppose when I record it. Just basically showing you a guide to this, and it's all ready. I mean, basically what it looks like, there's hardly any lights on at all until you're ready to record. Get your phone's level set correctly, okay, not too high, but these are very important to get your input levels right, okay. That's my B level. So my guitar's working, and my microphone's working as well. I'm tapping my microphone, so basically the whole thing is working as it should. Once you've